Morning. Probably the news you expected, but maybe the news you dreaded yesterday with Taylor. What's the mood of the team and the mood of you, and what how do you adjust lineup wise and everything else?
Yeah, that just is the toughest, every coach, any sport, every level. They're just so hard, especially with kids who kind of give their heart and soul to it. And Taylor was just a kid that, she's the epitome of a Hawkeye. She's an excellent student, just a great young woman. And in this culture, she stayed the course, right? She was willing to be developed her freshman year, her sophomore year, and just held strong, and such a great example. And just your heart just aches for her, because it's not just a season ending, but it's a career ending. So it's definitely heartbreaking. But as we talked, she came over Sunday night, and after the MRI, so we knew. Um, but she's so grounded, in the fact, and I just reiterated, you will heal and it can be fixed. There's a lot of things, sometimes the tough news, diagnoses and so forth, and she's so grounded that she does get that. But we discussed how you have to let all those emotions happen. You're going to feel all of them. I shared you're going to feel sad and fear and anger, envy, jealousy, resentment, all the things, which are normal as you grieve. It's part of the process. So she told the team yesterday at practice, and a lot of tears, right? Because she's so beloved. But, leading, leading, just about how she's going to be there, and, be kind of coaching from the sidelines, and how much she believed that we could keep trending and doing everything and to accomplish our goals. So that's the state of the union there. Everybody, lots of love, right? And certainly, I do believe, we can, continue going. I mean, adversity is kind of part of every journey. And we wish we wouldn't have had it, but we do. And now we'll just have to go forward.
Kyle.
Yeah, Jen, whether you go with Addie Deal or Taylor Stremmel in the starting lineup, it's not a shock to say that Addie Deal is going to be needed more from a scoring standpoint, like she has been the last couple of games. How is it something where you sit down with her and kind of let her know that maybe you need a little bit more out of her going forward, similar to the way she's been playing, or do you not want to put too much pressure on her and you kind of just hope that she understands that with the injury means that she's going to have to step up?
Yeah, I think the way we kind of design our program, there's not a lot of conversations needed. Just kind of how we went on, with the game. Addie came in, and she's an awesome off guard, can handle the ball. We're always a constant work in progress, and Addie knows, and they all know the areas that are their strong points and the areas that are, you know, areas to improve. We try to hide those a little bit during the season. And then we highlight all the things that we do well during a season. And then it's during the off season, you really try to make those jumps. So Addie's ready. She's been, ready, and she's answered the calls. Strimlow's ready. They're just a really good bunch of kids. So there's no really extra conversations needed. It's that next person in philosophy. And they're a good focused group. Mostly the conversations are the same as they've always been. How we're going to defend, what we need to do. We'll have to make some tweaks. Taylor was an excellent defender. She never got the credit she deserved with how she could defend, and her 3-point shooting is stellar. But we have other things that we'll highlight, and we'll just do things a little bit differently. So that's mostly going to be the conversations. But as far as that next person in, no problem. I'm very confident in everybody that's on our bench.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, Jen, I guess I think most of us expected Chit Chat, right, to be a pretty good player for you guys, especially offensively. But the statistical jumps that she's made, especially from shooting the basketball, Is it a testament to her work in the off season? Is it a testament to the quality of shots within your system? Or I guess, how would you kind of elaborate on that? And, is it as simple as, she just understands the burden that she kind of has to bear, and in those clutch situations, go make a play?
Yeah, I think it's just I mean, the whole season is just it's just it's just like I don't know, it's just an experience. It's just like you can't be who you're going to be in hopefully March and April and October. And, as much as you want to be so great so early, that's just, I think, part of the evolution of a team. And, as quickly as you can get from point A to point B, that's helpful because then you can go to C and then you can go to D. But sometimes you're on point A for a long time and then you finally get to B. So with Chit Chat, I think it was just getting used to things, right? Getting comfortable with me. She did not start as the point guard her whole career or her whole freshman year at Georgia Tech. She started to come on those last few games. And then all of a sudden, the upset of the apple cart, and she finds herself in the middle of the country asked to lead a team. So I really feel like that's the growth that's happened is that confidence and everybody getting used to each other and learning the system. And she just is a kid that likes to defer. And so there's going to hopefully be continued jumps between now and Thursday to Saturday to February 15th to March and then into next year on her leadership and her vocal and her confidence. Because boy, you can see when she's confident and can read when to take a ball screen. I think that she's pretty doggone good. So I think it's just part of a typical evolution of a team. And I think, her and I, she's starting to really trust that she can pretty much override any play I've called if she feels she's got the seam.
Bad.
Hey, Jan, as you recall, last year's West Coast trip, you learned a lot about your team. You hit rock bottom one game and turned it around the next. It's a long time together. What do you kind of want to get out of your team, big picture wise, when you come back after the UCLA game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think, everybody who makes these swings and, the West Coast schools have to do a couple times, right? Is an opportunity to handle it successfully in the sense of business as usual. But if you're in LA, you go to Santa Monica Boulevard for lunch, right? You got to be creative in how you spend the time, and that's the positive, right? If you have to be gone on an extended road trip, I think whether we're in California or we had right now a typical road trip, within the old school Big Ten, is the key is the games themselves and the preparation is to continue stacking that and business as usual, enjoying the chance to hit another process goal. And that's really been my message to the team. Going to California, I just hope that we thaw out a little bit. Number one, that'll be nice. Number two, that we, have some of those team bonding things and get to have a fun dinner there or lunch here, but grow a little bit on, how we manage, another road trip, right? So I haven't really put any more, emphasis on this road trip. It's just control the controllables. And you can't control the fact we got to go to LA and we got an extra day. So we just got to do what's gotten us to this point.
Ethan.
Hi, Coach. As your bench is kind of shortening up a little bit, I was curious about when you can expect Jada to return. I know that the release said postseason play, so is that like the Big Ten tournament or our prospective berth in the NCAA tournament? And how has she continued to kind of be that glue player that she's been throughout her entire career, even when she's not been able to be on the court with her teammates?
Yeah, I don't think any timeline has really been definitive. It just has to really how her rehab is going. So we're not really at that point because it's still pretty early. So I don't think there is a exact timeline other than maybe later, right? But regardless of that, to address your other question, Jada's always been that, that positive. She's a really great, spark. She can lead the celebration. She can lead the laugh. She really cares about her teammates. And I thought she's done a beautiful job, being a senior, and, you want to be out there and, with your teammates in the trenches, at the hard practices, or, on the sidelines in uniform and all the things. But, I talked to her about, regardless, is that what's needed, especially with the team that's younger than it's older, we're going to need you to continue being exactly who you are and who you can be for this team. And Jada just really hasn't, skipped a beat with that. She's really continues to lead really with a lot of fun, a lot of the joy, and, lifting others up. And I think just that senior wisdom and can kind of, lead them along, what to expect here and what this road trip looks like, and all the things. She's doing a really fantastic job.
Dorgan.
I know in talking about various players, kind of the urgency to improve in season is different than the off season for players. But I would imagine, this stretch for Addie at the beginning is maybe the first time where she's felt some urgency to get better at things quickly. How much has her ability to take some criticism and some critique and then, apply it quickly to where things have improved quickly? How pivotal has that aspect been of her, and how much is that an aspect of highly ranked players who come in and have the right mindset, even if they're adjusting to new things?
Yeah, I think that's, Addie has always really been a confident kid and a confident player. I think she understood at the beginning, the game is a little bigger, faster, stronger. And I think, when she kind of loosened that pressure and, really succumb to the process of that, which was easy for her to do, and just let that sequence develop. And, knowing that I had the confidence in her, which has never wavered, right? I've just always knew what she's capable of doing. But I think she's really been welcoming. She's a hard worker. She's, a good IQ player. And, watching the film and all the things. And, she's always eager and wants to be on the floor and wants to do, well. So that's never been, a challenge or an issue. I think just sometimes the patience it takes to go through, the workouts, the extra work, the pre-practice, the extra. She does a lot of shooting also on her own too, as they all do. But I just think, she just learned and was always, ready to take that next step. And so that's, regardless of Taylor's injury, she was, steady and, showing everything of those steps of growth. So, now there's a new forming that has to take place when you have a key player, suffer an injury like this. Now expectations and pressures are different. And you got to navigate it just a little differently, but her mentality will be fine. We just have to find a different way to rotate. What you lose is a stellar 3-point shooter in Taylor, and the yin and the yang of that, being able to have that 1-2 punch and being able to utilize rest, that just changes things. But Addie will be ready to rock and roll, and her mental approach has always been so strong and so good.
Angie.
Jan, when it was evident that Taylor was injured, the first people that went over to her were a couple of Ohio State players, and given your spirited rivalry, and Molly Davis got hurt during that game at Carver, what does that say about the program, and the respect that Big Ten teams have for each other?
I'd like to think that that's sportsmanship at its finest. And I'd like to think that, most every team would do that, right? Because it's, there's rivalries, but I don't think that there's too many rivalries in any sport where you just have that sense that something really has gone awry. that there wouldn't be too many teams that would have done similarly or teammates. With that being said, I very awesome of Ohio State, right? Because sometimes you can just get lost in the moment. You don't even really notice, right? You quickly huddle with your own team. But Kevin, he always has run a really good program, and I have a great respect for Kevin. We have a good rapport. So I think it was great, but I would like to think that we're all coaching our kids to be good human beings above really competitive basketball players, because I think at the end of the day, it's a game and we're all trying to, chase championships. But I think that personally, I think sometimes the sportsmanship is really what we're missing sometimes in sport, and certainly in the world right now. I think that just human kindness, and looking out for each other. I think that was a really nice example of what I would like the world to be more like.
Yeah, Jan, wanted to ask about USC on both ends of the floor. I know their offense has been struggling as of late. I know they have, Chit Chat's old teammate Kara Dunn's kind of been leading them on the offensive end. Just curious to hear your thoughts on what they do offensively, and then defensively. That's really what's kept them in a lot of games. They've lost a stretch, I think, of lost 6 of their last 7, but they've been close, particularly because of their defense. So just curious what challenges you see with their offense, and then what they do defensively.
Yeah, it's one of those where the record is completely misleading. They're 3-6. It's like USC, they must be down. They've just lost by 4. I think 4 of the last 5 or something. And they're really athletic. They do a lot of set plays. Lindsay's a great coach, Gottlieb, and she has a lot of different sets. They run a lot of different stuff. They'll do some Princeton actions. They'll do some shuffle cut stags. They do a motion. But they have some really great players. Couple 3 McDonald's All-Americans. Jazzy Davidson. She was a teammate of Ava Heiden's in Oregon, and then her last year she flew to Cali to play in an EYBL team, which was a teammate of Addie Deal's. So they're big guards, except their point guard that they start right now, and even one of their great shooters that comes off the bench, number 3, London Jones. So they're a little bigger guard wise. So we have Chit Chat and you have Kylie, and now you'll have Addie, Taylor Strim in that rotation. Hopefully, we got to get some, if we utilize our more of our depth with Levine or Mulaney. But they're bigger guards. Kennedy Smith is one of the best defenders, but she can post up. She's a guard, and she can hit a 3 and she can drive it. So they pose problems with how their size. Kara Dunn is a 3, but she can play the 4 in different lineups. So there's a lot of versatility they have that will challenge us to defend them.
Jeff?
Yeah. Have you decided on who's going to start? Has that been decided yet? Is it going to be Addie or Taylor?
Yeah, it'll be Addie Deal.
Okay. And side note, this is your team that was not picked in the top 5 preseason. Here you are, 9-0. Has this team overachieved, or is this team achieved? Is this what I assume you didn't think 9-0 at this point, mm-hmm. But has this team gone above and beyond what you thought it would be at this point?
At the beginning of the year, it's always tricky when you're younger than you're older. So I don't put a whole lot of stock in the preseason stuff, and even all the rankings now, right? It's the ones at the end of the year that really, really matter. And so it was in June, I kind of like what I was seeing, but it was in the fall, I started to really think that this team, I think, could be a little fun, could have a little fun, right? So I don't know if overachieving is a word I would use. I think I would like to maybe look at it. We're really working to get everything out of our team, right? That's what every coach wants to do. I think we're we're hitting good benchmarks along the way. I do think we can still get better. Now it's a little bit different of a challenge. I haven't had a whole lot of time to get used to life without Taylor McCabe, which that gave us a different element that few people in the country had. She is one of the best shooters in the country. So when you had her on the floor, you always had someone defending her. Even with that, though, I love our depth. But yeah, I'm extremely proud of them. They've worked hard. I've told them, they've earned the good things that have come their way. Hopefully, will continue to come. But I guess I wouldn't look at it yet if we're overachieved or. I just think what I've liked is that they've answered every call, and they've been willing and eager. And my favorite part of them is that they're really for each other. And I think when you're for each other, even if you wish that you were more in the limelight role or playing more, but you can still be for each other, that's where the magic can happen. And I think this team has done that, and I think that's why they're kind of sitting where they are.
Ethan.
Given that this will be Addie's first career start and she's back home in California, you said the other day that she's been ready for everything. I guess do you talk to her to help her prepare for that super cool opportunity and maybe a little bit more pressure because she's back home, or do you just kind of let it ride and know she's going to be ready for the moment?
I don't do a lot of that. She just doesn't need it. I mean, I don't think any of my kids would need a talk. I mean, that's how they're wired. Everybody wants to start. Everybody wants to hit the game winner. Everybody wants to go to the Final Four. And it's just, I'm excited for her. I'm excited for all of that. But I just think, Addie's weathered a lot, right? You got a lot of questions. Can she handle this? Is she going to handle this? She's doing here, and she's doing a great job. I'm no question she'll meet the moment. I just think you just do what the next thing is ahead of you. And, a team, all the team with the roles they play will ebb and flow, and you just want them ready for that next opportunity. And, she's ready for that. And, I just, I don't have any magic, exciting things to tell you guys about, a conversation I've had. I've just been having conversations with them the whole year. Her, Srem, Ava Hayden, chit chat. I mean, just getting them ready to be their best when their best is required. And, if you get enough of them doing that at the same time, boy, then you're rolling. And I believe that'll continue to happen. And I think we'll be able to handle the adversity. We just got to get a little used to it. But yeah, no, I'm really confident, and I don't really. I mean, I'll probably give her like, "You got this," right? But I think she knows. I believe she's got this since the minute I recruited her.
God.
Hey, it felt like for a while, Layla just couldn't catch a break, like a roll, a foul. But she had a couple of nice moments the other day. How important was that, and kind of how's she doing with this freshman year? I know it's been bumpy at times.
Yeah, I think freshman years are freshman years. Most everybody will tell you about the freshman year. Even Caitlin Clark, I mean, there's a lot coming at you, right, in those years. And whether you're playing all the time or you're being developed and playing sporadically, they can be hard. And what's really hard is that few high school kids have any adversity. It's so minimal, the adversity that they have. Might be they got in foul trouble one game, but that's about it, right? Or they lost a heartbreaker. But none of them have been challenged to not play. None of them have been challenged to not be the one. Their camps have not been, ever been in that situation. So when you get into these situations, there's a lot to weather, not just them, but all the people around them and the feelings of disappointing, and then the wondering, am I good enough, and all the things, right? And that's the beauty of what coaches in college get to do, but also the hard thing is you got to help them work through that, because that type of adversity, is different than an injury adversity, right? It's different than other things. But at the end of the day, it's a challenge because it's not easy. It's not what I thought it was going to be. And so Layla, as no different than probably 99.9% of all the freshmen everywhere, is you're just learning how, man, that drop step that used to be so easy, why is that all of a sudden so hard, right? And I think she's really started to kind of understand that it just is hard. It's just going to be hard for a little bit. And so once we continue, I keep talking about stacking the days and stacking the progress. She's going to have a lot more really good minutes. And I thought, she had 2 assists in the game against Ohio State. She had a nice, reverse, missed a couple free throws. We got to continue working on that. But I think it's just her growth is a normal progression, especially for bigs. Bigs, they've been so big over everybody usually in their conferences. There's usually no one like them. And so then when they get here and now all of a sudden they have people that are, maybe they're not always as tall, but they're maybe stronger, maybe faster, maybe more agile, maybe just seasoned. It's a lot to throw at them. So bigs typically will have a little bit more of a learning curve, because bigs typically just don't play pickup. When you're little, you just go play pickup, or you're a guard. You're always like, let's go run, right? Bigs will run sometimes, but I'm telling you, it's just an unscientific study I have. Guards have just played a lot more. They just go and they have 5-on-5. Bigs, they don't have the luxury of just playing and then playing at that pace and then someone else being as big as they are. So it's a natural progression. I'm pleased with how she's progressing. There's 2 big key areas I think we have to keep working on: the quickness of the release and not dropping the ball. And that'll be a progression throughout this season, but also in the off season. But I love the kid, and she's growing and learning, and she's going to be pretty doggone good when we're all said and done.
Angie?
I know you can't speak on Peyton McCabe's injury at Drake, but where were the McCabe parents on Sunday? Were they in Iowa City or Des Moines?
Mom was here. Dad was watching young track. They have some younger brothers that were at an indoor track meet. So he had to watch both injuries on TV. So that's pretty heart-wrenching. And then Taylor, when she found out about Peyton, she told her mom, you have to go. She's in the hospital. I'll be fine. I'll get my MRI. That's the kind of kid Taylor is. So she, Taylor's boyfriend was here and his family, so they got her, help, kind of shepherd the process. But that's really, really tough. But I talked to both Ryan and Dana, and as you can imagine, man, seeing your kids, was tough, and just the craziness of it. But they're really grounded too, right? And know that, yes, there's definitely worse things, but it's hard to kind of swallow at the moment. But they're, doing well, but certainly keeping all of them in our thoughts and prayers. Allison Pullman had texted.
So Dana went to be with Peyton.
Yeah.
Before the Iowa game was over, or
I don't know the details.
Okay.
I just know that she went to Des Moines at some point. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Take care. God bless. Go Hawks.